Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to receive the worship of the Mayor of Burnley, Councillor Arif Khan. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome members to the council meeting at Burnley Mechanics and thanks our host for accommodating us again. Can I ask members and members of the public not to talk amongst themselves during the meeting, as this can be very distracting for those who are listening to the debate. Can I also ask everyone to ensure any mobile devices are switched to silent and do not cause a distraction during the meeting? I would remind everyone that the use of mobile devices for the taking or making of phone calls is not permitted in this meeting. I would also remind members that where they are able to, they are required to stand when addressing the council meeting. When members are invited to speak, please wait for the microphone to be brought to you before you start to speak. We are aware that some members have hearing difficulties, and additionally, while some members may not need the amplification to be heard in the room, the viewers at home will not be able to hear. We would ask you to speak clearly and not hold papers or anything else between yourself and the microphone when speaking. We are not expecting a fire alarm tonight, but if one should occur, please follow officers out of the building to the assembly point. The meeting is being streamed, and I would like to take the opportunity to welcome those watching on the Council's YouTube channel. Finally, members, let us all remember to treat members of the public, elected members and officers with respect throughout the meeting as set out in the Code of Conduct for members. Item 1 on the agenda, minutes of the last meeting of the Council. I will move those minutes. Mr. Deputy Mayor, will you second those minutes?
I second those minutes, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Item 2 on the agenda, declaration of interest. Right. Right. Yeah. Councillor Cunliffe, can you declare your interest, please, and then I'll come to Alan Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Yes, as a board member of Burnley Leisure and Culture, I have a prejudicial interest in 6E on the Leisure Trust and a non-prejudicial in 11A. Is that the right way around? Sorry, Lockman?
Well, I think you suggested to Chris it was the other way around.
Sorry, it was the wrong. So it's a prejudicial interest in Leisure Trust, item 6E, and a non-prejudicial interest in 11A.
No, it was the other way around as well. You said you said. No, you said the same twice. So do you want to go again?
Okay, so I have a non-prejudicial interest in 6E, Chair, and a prejudicial interest in 11A, Chair. Is that clear?
Yes, that's what you suggested to Chris earlier before the meeting, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Alan Lewis here, please.
Yeah, for exactly the same reasons, declaring a non-prejudicial interest in item 6E and other prejudicial interest in 11A.
Okay, that's clear. All right. So shall we move into item 3? Yeah. Item 3 on the agenda, Mayor's communications. The Mayor's charity Civic Bowl will be taking place on Saturday, 28th October at Burnley Football Club. The entertainment for the evening will include a cabaret and DJ. Tickets are priced at £40 per person and are available from Maureen Neves. Any donations to the raffle or auction are welcome. Item 4 on the agenda, public question time. We have received 2 requests to speak. My first speaker would be Jennifer Braddock, as requested to speak on selective landlord licensing and antisocial behavior. Mrs. Braddock, you have 5 minutes to address the council meeting, so please come forward.
We still have major issues with antisocial behaviour across the whole area, with youths having total disrespect for people. Damage has twice been done to the electric charging bays and the storage area at Briarcliff Road Shopping Centre. Some parts are becoming no-go areas for decent, law-abiding and elderly residents who get abused and, in one case, assaulted. We have major issues with Bracewell Street Tyres and Green Street Garage, who seem to believe they can park semi-derelict cars anywhere they please, whilst blocking roads and back streets. Residents who do complain suffer abuse and intimidation. Only tonight we have had an egg thrown at the car on Eastern Avenue. Selective landlord licensing is not working in Queensgate. Many properties are being managed by local housing companies. Some antisocial behaviour comes from these properties, while others change tenants frequently. Some are unfit for habitation, while others are overcrowded. In one case, there are 3 families in a 2-bedroom house. We appreciate the help we get from Councillors Anwar and Birtwistle, but we still need major investment in our area. Why should we need to have to come 3 times to explain our distress at the lack of attention in our ward, when, on the 2 previous visits, no contact was ever made by our councillors? Would you councillors like to live in this area? If yes, fair enough. But if no, we would like to have a meeting with the Chief Executive to formulate a plan to regenerate Queensgate.
Thank you, Mrs. Braddock. My next speaker is... Oh, sorry. Any questions from the members before I move to the... No, yeah. Oh, Councillor. Yeah. Councillor John Harbour, as the relevant executive member, would you respond to Jennifer Braddock's plea?
So, Councillor Whitaker, we've just missed an item. He's just reverting back, and members will have the opportunity to speak after Councillor Harbour's spoken.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Harbour, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Jennifer for coming down for a 3rd time. Yes, it is sad that you've had to come down and raise these issues with us, but what I can do is respond to what issues we have in front of us, what we as a Borough Council can deal with. I accept that many of the issues you've raised tonight are police issues and wider issues. That doesn't mean we're not interested. but that means we have to talk to our partners and colleagues about the problems you're facing. Regarding selective licensing, and I appreciate you said it's not working or it's not working properly. Selective licensing has never been a silver bullet what will control problems in housing or antisocial behaviour, but in my opinion it does help. And within the selective licensing area in Queensgate, the team have just recently completed a 4th audit which have taken place around Braycliffe Road and the shopping area. And on these audits, what they do, they go around the areas and they check out external properties, troffins, backyards with colleagues from street scene. Also, we have an area officer who attends a weekly drop-in session at Linkbridge. That officer works within Queensgate only and is available for residents and landlords, and any issue what's going on in the area can be addressed there. Recently as well, a newsletter went out to all the properties within the selective licensing area in Queensgate, again highlighting where antisocial behaviour issues can be sorted and any problems with properties can be looked at. If there are reports, and officers are aware of the reports regarding multiple households with 2 or 3 families in, I can assure you that officers will investigate those issues you raised there. That's an assurance. Officers always respond to questions and requests like that. They also work closely with the police and street scene and the antisocial behaviour team, and they also attend the multi-agency team which sits throughout the borough. So issues, when they are shown to us, we will act on them. I think we've got a record of past of acting on the issues you've raised before. I'm not saying that they've gone away, but we will come and try and respond the best we can. On investment, I think, in all honesty, when you look at the challenges we're facing on investment, those challenges face us throughout the borough. Yes, we need more investment in Queensgate, but when you look at the housing stock, what we have throughout the borough, there's major challenges there. And again, being honest with you, we've seen no real major investment in this town in housing since 2010. There was a scheme up in Queensgate, and I accept it's some years ago now, but it was called the Clusters Programme, and that started around the Brennan Street area, where I think we brought something like 140 properties back into use. And during those years, I think we spent over £1.3 million in that area. We also did some environmental schemes on Brennan Street itself, and we also did some facelifting at the rear of Heap Street. I accept that to residents living there, that might not be enough. But I've got to be honest with you, and I'll look you in the eye, but with the resources we've got, we cannot regenerate our town like we'd like to. So, just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, if residents have concerns there, the opportunities are there for residents to make complaints and raise issues, and I promise everybody in this room tonight we will act on them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Now it's for the members here, and I have got 2 members who asked to speak. First one, Councillor Husker. Please stand up and ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Broderick makes sense, and I'm glad she's turned up tonight to speak on behalf of the residents. And to have her come a 3rd time, like the lady says, a 3rd time, John Harbour's reply, no investment. I think it's bad organisation. Let's face it, this Lebanon Council has been doing it now for how long? A good few years, haven't it? They've been in charge. And every time something don't suit, they turn around and point the finger. It's a complete joke.
Right. Next one, Councillor Birtwistle, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Oscar. In 40 years I've been on this council, I have never known a residents group, have to come here on 3 occasions to ask this council for help in the areas that they live in. I, along with Council Leader, Councillor Ramlaw, and Mrs. Maddock, thanked us for what we can do, but we can only do what we can do. We've been around that area on 2 or 3 occasions. We've noted dead rats in the street, rat infestation over the place, dereliction, and serious antisocial behaviour. On our last visit, we were confronted by the owner of a specific garage up there that Mrs. Maddock has mentioned tonight, for complaining that he'd left his cars all over the street in semi-derelict conditions. He believed that it was quite right that he could block the back street and he could leave his cars all over the place. Now the council can do something about that. We have the powers to go and pick up cars that have led there for a long time, and we have the powers to take them to the scrapyard. We have those powers, and we should be using those powers. We have the powers to serve notices on businesses who care little for the area that they operate in, but cause serious stress and distress on the residents who have to live around them. So there's no reason why not. There's an empty club up in that area. I can't just remember its name, but there's an empty club up in there that is engulfed, and I'm not exaggerating, it's engulfed in gas bottles, in syringes and rubbish all over the place. We have the power, as an authority, to deal with the owner of that club, and we need to get on with it. Just to say we're going to serve a notice and politely write to them, we should be seeing them in the courts. We should be dragging them through the courts, because what happens, we have to go and clear up at the cost to the taxpayers in this town. Why should we be clearing up after these people? We should have them in court. We should be making them do the jobs and making them pay for it. And maybe next time they will think twice about leaving a car outside somebody's house for months on end with all the tyres flat. And then when he's approached, he abuses the residents and threatens the residents. This is not right. I go to the Burnley Lane meeting as often as I can, and the same stories come time and time and time again. Surely the council can start taking serious action about some of the things that's going on, and some of the rogue landlords we have up there who are expecting their tenants to live into damp, rat-infested properties. We should be really putting the pressure on these people. I accept what Councillor Harbour said, that we haven't got the funding. The government are not giving funding to regenerate parts of Burnley that desperately need it. But we have the legal powers to take action. And I ask you, please don't make Mrs. Braddock come here again on the 4th occasion. Please serve the actions that we can serve and get this area tidied up and get in court the perpetrators of this misery that these poor residents are having to suffer. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Birtwistle. My next speaker is Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm shocked at Councillor Harbour tonight. I really am. Because I've known him for years, and I generally think I've supported him in what he does. But when he says selective licensing is not the silver bullet, fine. We've been trying it for 15 years. Well, let's give up if it's not working. The second thing is that antisocial behaviour forms a major part of selective licensing. And the council can get on to the agents, they can get on to the landlords, they can have the tenants removed and things like that thrown out, and better, more sociable tenants put in. But what really shocked me about Councillor Harbour tonight was this bit that if Mrs. Braddock sees the officers, they will respond. That, John, is absolutely pathetic. You should have said, I will come and see you, Mrs. Braddock. I will take note of what it is, and I will take your complaint to the officers and make sure everything is sorted out to your satisfaction. Not putting it back to citizens of this town to say, raise complaints and do something, because half the time, nothing gets done. And that's the problem with it all. Nobody seems to want to do anything anymore. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Baker. Right. Councillor Lubna Khan, are you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to start by thanking Mrs. Is this working? I'd just like to thank you for coming tonight, taking the time to speak to us so passionately about issues that you've raised. I just have a few comments that I would like to give. I was earlier, so some of them have to fly tipping. I think my actually. With regards to fly tipping, the performance for 2023, the Council have issued 56 fixed penalty notices, 21 community protection notices for waste offences, 275 waste presentation warning letters, and 53 dirty backyards. We've targeted litter enforcement patrols are carried out on a regular basis, and the teams have visited every retail unit on Corn Road to advise on commercial waste and on street. Within the current contract, all streets are cleansed following every collection, and there's a dedicated operative with a barrow that cleanses Corn Road, Briarcliff Road area throughout the day. It was mentioned by somebody else, rats, 42 appointments in 23. That is for all of them either logged online or via the contact centre. You also mentioned, Mrs. Braddock, car reservation road, you mentioned Cliff Road as well. This is to believe you have the ear of the county councillor who has been attending your meeting. Thank you so much. Who better than to have a wonderful county councillor who you can relay all your information to, and he does a great job. He's brilliant at what he does. So I hope that obviously helps with them matters. They are County Lancashire LCC matters. The cars racing on Corn Road is a police matter. The concern should be raised directly by residents. Contrary to what some people are saying, unfortunately all councillors don't know what's happening all the time. We need residents to tell us. We don't have eyes and ears everywhere. We need residents to log things. We need them to bring them to our attention. We couldn't possibly go and visit everybody who has an issue without knowing what that issue is. You mentioned Queen Gate's councillors. There are councillors that do live in Queensgate, and on the whole, Queensgate is a very nice area. I believe that the leader of the council and the chief operating officer and the head of street scene have been out and have spoken to residents as well. So I do believe that they are doing a good job there. The police also hold packed meetings where issues are discussed between the police and the residents, and any concerns raised are dealt with. If this is not the case, then please feel free to talk to me. I would like to make contact with yourself, and anything that I can help you with, I'll be more than happy to do so. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor McGowan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome to Council, Mr. Braddock. Third time. That's the one, yeah. I've been listening to a number of things that have been said tonight, and to be fair, it comes across to me like the councillors that you've got in your area think they're doing a great job. They've told you everything that they've done previously, and now there's fly tipping reports being done, and there's packed meetings taking place, and you must be experiencing something that's, I don't know, above and beyond what the council can do, I guess. I do relate it to, so I'm a councillor in Haptonwood Park, and I do relate, I do have some, well, I have a lot of sympathy with what you're putting up with. We've had problems of antisocial behaviour in Padiham. Me and Councillor Oscar actually went out with the police on a Friday evening to see for ourselves some of the stuff that were taking place over there. The question I really wanted to ask, and it's like you've got Councillor Graham, who's one of your councillors as far as I'm aware, do these if residents in Haptonwood Park were coming and speaking at this meeting saying there's some serious issues of antisocial behaviour, then the question I'd ask myself is, why don't I have a relationship with these people already? Because the one thing that has been said in this council is councillors aren't the High Sheriff of Burnley. We can't sort out police matters at the click of a finger. And I don't think you're expecting that for 1 minute. But what we can do is work with residents to bring issues to the police's attention. And it sounds like you don't have a very good connection with your local councillors. And the reason why you don't, I don't think falls on your part, because you've taken the time and effort to come on a Wednesday night to a council meeting, which is the most thrilling thing for the member of the public, surely. So it's not an issue on your side. I think it's an outreach issue on your councillor's side, and I think they should be a little bit embarrassed about you being here tonight. I'm sorry for your issues. It got brought up in scrutiny about the state of Queensgate. You know, I'm a councillor in Aptomore Park, and I try and help across the borough, but you know, I've got issues in Aptomore Park, and they said, oh, we need a group to look at what's happening in this area. I just hope some resolution with it. I hope your councillors, whether it's the current crop or whether you get some new ones in, actually work for you rather than just telling you everything that they've done, and keep it down, please. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Anwar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, can I thank the residents and Mrs. Braddock for taking the time out and being here, coming here to speak to members and raise the issues. Very important issues that have been raised, and you know, we're listening, we're taking all of that on board. But Mrs. Braddock is right; she shouldn't have to, or the residents shouldn't have to come here for a third time for them to be having this conversation. There's just a couple of points that I just want to pick up on. I think it was Councillor Hosker that mentioned that this council has been run for many years by a Labour administration. I think what he's forgetting is that 18 months of that was the coalition administration that was running the council as well, which he was a part of. But that isn't excusing any of the issues that are being raised here tonight. There are a number of things that have come up, including obviously the issue around Colne Road and the driving and a number of incidents that have taken place there. One of the things that we did do, and Councillor Birtwistle has done this as well, and will attest to that, is that we approached the Police Crime Commissioner's Office to actually look into average speed cameras for that stretch of Colne Road. And when all of the schemes that were announced for Lancashire, not a single one of them was announced for Burnley and covered that area, and so they didn't see that as a priority. But we'll keep pushing that. We'll keep pushing that as an agenda item. I think Councillor Birtwistle is also, you know, speaking. We have been out and we spoke with the residents. We met with them on a number of occasions, and you know, we are slowly starting to see improvements to some of the things that are happening. But Councillor Harbour mentioned that, you know, obviously it was some time ago, but in 2010 we had funds that came from central government, particularly through housing market renewal, that came here and invested in the housing in this area. But what Councillor Birtwistle forgets is that he was part of the government that actually voted against that and took that away. That investment was actually taken away by that coalition government that came in. So I think, you know, there's lots of food for thought for us, and I think Mrs. Braddock and the other residents know this, that they can get in touch with us, and I as council leader, I will ensure that myself, the officers from the council, and the ward councillors for Queensgate will meet with the residents, and we will look to address all of those issues and see how we can make Queensgate better. And then on the final point, I just again want to clarify that Councillor Graham, who is an executive member, is not a councillor for Queensgate, she's a councillor for Lanehead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Right. Next, Councillor Anne Kelly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. I'm going to ask two questions, which sadly I know the answer to. Queensgate Residents Group meets monthly. How many times have their councillors attended the meeting? And how many times have the police attended their meeting? And the answer to both is 0. In the last year, neither the police nor one of their local councillors has been to one of their residents' meetings. And I think that is absolutely shocking. The other thing is, we've heard about, well, we've done this and we've done that and we've put money in this and we've sent people around. Well, it's not worked. It's still happening. She's here for the third time and it's worse than ever. So it's not working. Whatever you say you've done or you're going to do, it's not happening. The other thing is, both Braycliffe Road and Combe Road have become a joke when it comes to traffic and speeding cars. We've had traffic lights on Braycliffe Road for 9 months now because 2 boy racers crashed into a building and brought it down. Takes you roughly in the region of about 15 minutes to get through those because the three-way traffic, the two-way traffic lights, but then you've got traffic coming off Brennan Street which doesn't have lights. Combe Road, it's all right saying we've asked this and we've asked that. It's not working, so something else has to be done. Another accident on Combe Road this week. People have been killed speeding on Combe Road. If you speak to any resident in Burnley and say anything about Combe Road, the first reaction is, oh, the speed on there, they overtake on the wrong side of the road, they go on the other side of the bollards, they overtake, they park where they shouldn't do. And it's like a standard joke, and it shouldn't be. And it's easy to say, well, we're trying this and we're trying that, and they won't do this and they won't do that. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to residents and Mrs. Braddock for coming this evening. Again, I share the sentiment of other councillors that it's disgusting that they come 3 times, but I think what they want to really come away with is some practical solutions that we can take forward. Now, this has come to scrutiny before, and as an opposition group, we get to sit on scrutiny and we can look at this. There has been a working group on scrutiny, and clearly the method, and I do admire Councillor Birtwistle for not just what he said, but for actually going up there as a resident, as a ward councillor from another ward, going up there and getting involved in this, and for Councillor Anwar for getting his hands dirty and getting up there involved. But I think it needs a broader solution to this, to not just 2 councillors going up there, right? What I want to suggest for this is, I don't think the working group on scrutiny must have worked neither, but I think we should have a cross-party task force from the council that should be go up with willing councillors. Anyone can be involved, sit on a task force. There's obviously legal suggestions that need to be followed up with, which Councillor Birtwistle from one party put forward quite eloquently earlier. They should be followed up on. There must be other practical solutions we can do to help residents see solutions coming forward on this. And so I'm beyond other suggestions than a cross-party working task force on this. Anyone who wants to get involved should be able to do. Now, that's up to the executive because they have the power to decide whether they do that. And it's a good opportunity for the new chief exec to get involved and get his teeth dirty as well on this. So, yeah, that's my suggestion. Hopefully other councillors will agree with that. So those that do want to get roll the sleeves up and get their hands dirty can get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conliffe. Right, I don't think any more councillor there. So may I take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Braddock for coming along with all your friends here and highlighting your issue here. So all the officers are here with us, all the councillors are here. We all support your problem and your issue here. I'm sure we will find a way out how to improve the area. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah, next one. Right. My next speaker is Mr. Pilling, has requested to speak on rat infestation. People leaving bins open and various bags of waste in street. Mr. Pilling, you have 5 minutes to address the council. Please come forward.
I'm here tonight to speak to you about the large infestation of rats in Burnley Centre. For the past 9 months, myself and the tenants of York Street, which is adjacent to this establishment, have been battling furiously to try and get rid of them. We haven't succeeded yet. One of the main things is the main food bar on Manchester Road, Ellis's, has always got the bins open, wide open. Now, rat can climb 20 foot, so it's easy for them to get in the bin. It's a banquet for them. They're in the flats on Ormerod Street. They got a pest controller in there about 4 weeks ago because the owner didn't realise that they had rats in there. When the pest controller came, he opened the cupboard doors on the meter, and lo and behold, there is a large rat there. When I say large rat, size of a cat. And he went out to his vehicle, came back, and he shot him. But we have put in, I've spent with the tenants of York Street £1,500 this year alone, trying to get rid of them. Only last week, I put 60 sachets, about an inch square, in under the floor. All the lot went each night. 20 a night, they all went. We're not getting any help from the council whatsoever. We've phoned the health department and they don't want to know. They're not interested. In fact, I rang up one day complaining about them, and the lady put the phone down on me and she said, I can't speak to you, you own the property. I don't know why I'm different because I own the property and not a tenant. She said you'll have to get one of the tenants to ring you. So I did. I got one of the tenants to ring you. We asked sometimes to be, we then found out about street scene. I didn't know what street scene were well this year. But we'll ring up the health department. We have the number then for street scene. And all the busy. Again, put the phone down. It's really pathetic, the health department at the moment. In the 80s, I were a contractor for the health department, and they used to do twice as much as what they do now. If you had a leaking trough, and you could ring the health department up, they put a notice on them, he came round, and if they didn't, the tenant didn't do it, the likes of me went round to fix it. There's none of that now, so I don't know what they're doing. We've set up a little bit of a rapport with the people at Street Scene, and in fact, the young lady who were dealing with it came round with the gentleman that deals with the bins, emptying them. And they looked in Ellis's bin again. Again, it's open. He's been warned, I don't know how many times, and I'd like to know, on the June this year, 7th of June, Ellis's bar was awarded 4 stars for hygiene. Now, where's this sense in that? The back alleyway where Ellis's is, there used to be 8 boroughs where...
Mr. Pilling, you have got half a minute to wind up your speech, please.
Sorry?
You have got half a minute left.
Okay. There were 8 boroughs. They're now covered in a foot of concrete and they're not getting out of there. One of the tenants on York Street went round to the one-stop shop on Manchester Road. There's a crowd round, there's a rat there. The owner of the shop rang up the health department. Nothing to do with us, you'll have to get rid of it yourself. So one of the tenants at York Street went round, put it in a box and disposed of it humanely. This year, 22-23, Pest Control spent as a council £77,513. Yet on dog wardens they spent £182,800.
Mr. Pilling, your time is over, please. I know you've got a lot to say here, but thank you so much for your time here. And please take your seat here. Councillor Lubna Khan, as the relevant executive member, would you please respond to Mr. Pilling's question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Pilling, start by thanking you for coming to full council tonight and explaining the issues. You honestly have my sympathies. You and the residents of your area, York Street, it sounds like it's something absolutely unbelievable with. And I have been reading the reports on it. I know it's been mentioned in this council tonight that there's no point saying what you have done, but I think it is important to highlight what has been done, as well as to come to some kind of a resolution as what we can do. Street Scene has been made aware of the issues early this year, and the work that's been ongoing to improve the area at the rear of York Street, they have now resolved that particular piece of work. The council's pest control contractors inspected the area and identified remedial and proofing work that needed to be carried out to all relevant parties and all relevant parties and office one of the a street arranged a thorough one-off cleanse to the area. Although this is private land and not the council's responsibility, it was done to support the tenants and the owners of the area. Weatherspoons had left a large volume of kegs, and whilst not the responsibility of the council, a council officer identified all the cords on the kegs and arranged for those to be removed, again to support with the tenants and the owners. A council officer has been regularly inspecting the bin area and is satisfied that there are no issues regarding the presentation of waste. That's not to negate what you're saying about the rats, it's about the actual issue of the waste. However, I am pleased to say that an update has been provided to the resident via the local MP. If there's any work that we can do with you ongoing, Mr. Pilling, I'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lubna. Any member? Councillor Cunliffe, and then come back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, thank you, Mr. Pilling, for coming and shining a light on the town centre, because similar to Queensgate, we face a problem and potentially fall into the same trap as what's been reported that's going up in Queensgate. We have an office in the town centre as well, and quite often I've got to pick up rubbish, pick up litter, we're stepping over dog dirt, which is increased by increased number of residents and tenants in the town centre, and all the problems that brings. I personally welcome people living in the town centre. It's part of making it a bustling problem. So removing people from living in the town centre is not the solution, but dealing with the situation properly with practical solutions is the situation. Hopefully people won't be, or the council won't be stepping over dog dirt saying that's not my responsibility, or saying that that's private land, etc. We need to all come together as a town centre community and work together on these issues to tidy it up before it gets too worse. So thank you, Mr. Pilling, for coming and shining a light, which I'm sure is a bigger problem than just what you've got. Appreciate you've got a problem. Hopefully that will be resolved. But again, we need to have this in mind that the town centre is turning into a living area as well as a retail and leisure area. So we need to make sure we're working on this together so everyone's happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Mr. Pilling, thank you for coming here this evening and telling us about this major issue that we have in the town centre. I know just a couple of weeks ago, I saw people trying to pin a rat down virtually opposite this building. I find it absolutely ludicrous that in this day and age that these animals are running about vermin and we don't appear to be doing anything about it. It's quite ironic yet again. It's a Labour-run area, this ward. Have the councillors spoken to you about this, or have you not made any contact with you whatsoever? That would be my first question. With regards to the fact that you've had to call out your own people to try and resolve this, I noticed the rat catcher in Burnley at this moment in time seems to be from Hindburn, or at least it says so on the van. That could possibly explain why £77,000 is being spent on this one issue. I'd like to know, do we have a rat catcher in Burnley? Moving on from that, to have the form put down by officers or somebody at the council on a resident, I just find is absolutely ridiculous. This is an issue. What's been said to Alice's or the business that is involved in this, what action has been taken, other than an officer going round and finding that the waste bins were in order? Why aren't we doing something about this? Because it's quite apparent to me that we are not. And to have residents, business owners in here this evening discussing this, rats in Burnley Town Centre, is absolutely ludicrous. And I want some answers to those questions, please. What are we doing? Why haven't we done anything previously? And why haven't people had engagement from their own councillors rather than have to come here after work tonight to express their opinion in front of a full council? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Birtwistle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's fair to say that every time I park my car on the Town Hall car park and come into the Town Hall, Mr. Pilling and one or two of his friends harass me to go and look at the state of the bins in the yard behind the restaurant that's name's been mentioned this evening. To me, it's not rocket science for they have the facilities there to dispose of the food waste, which is the problem. It's not rocket science to shut the lid. And every time I've been round, the lids are full, the bins are full, and the lids are open. Now, a rat won't go where there's nowhere to eat. There's no food. A rat won't go where it's cold and damp. But a rat will go where there's plenty to eat. And they've now got into the, I understand, got into the flats that are joining this area behind this particular restaurant. And they're into the cavity walls, and they're into the ceilings and the roofs. It's a hotel for them. Plenty of food on hand, plenty of warmth to keep them and the home to live in. This council has the powers. We have the legal powers to serve serious notice on this particular restaurant, on any other food establishment that takes the disposal of food and the security of waste food serious. I've been around a number of times with Mr. Pilling and other people in that area, and the bin lids are open. Now, if the kitchen staff can't shut the bins after they put the rubbish in it, the food that's not eaten, if they can't shut the bins and secure them so that rats can't get in and feed from it, then this council really should be leaning on this restaurant. I mean, I haven't been in there, and after seeing what I've seen around the back of it, I don't think I will be attending in the very near future. But it is ridiculous that they're getting away with this. The girls in street scene are doing their best. I've been round with them a couple of times, and they are very sympathetic. Sympathy is no good. We need to start doing something really serious on this. I'm sure the publicity tonight for that restaurant won't do it a lot of good, but it might get them to do what we want them to do, is take care of the disposing of the waste, shut the bin lids, and then get the council to serve the legal notice on them, and let's see them in court where they can explain why they can't train the staff to shut a bin lid on a food waste container. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. These people shouldn't have to come here and do this. Yeah. This is outrageous.
No. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to apologise to Mr. Pilling, amongst others, and the rest of the town as well, because for many years, it was the Labour executive, it's not political, but I supported them along the way. And every year we knocked down the amount of money we were spending on rat catching and rat treatments and rat poisoning. And I remember we used to share a deal with United Utilities, and we said, oh, we can't afford that anymore, we've got to do other things, there's more priorities to us. But I think the time has come now to say, we got it wrong. And the executive now needs to find some money somewhere to solve this problem. I was sat outside the library the other day and I watched the little rats run backwards and forwards from one bit to another, and you think, oh, that's handy, isn't it? We just need a Pied Piper or something. But it's disgusting. This used to be a great town. We never had rats. I have never seen a rat till I should say 65, 70. Never in my life in Burnley. But these last few years it's gone terrible, and we now need to find the resources to do something serious about it. And it might involve, again, like Mr. Pilling, I own an office down there, and you ring up the rat catcher or whatever it's called in Burnley, and they just say, oh, it's nothing to do with us. If it's a private house, we will send him out to help you and do it. It's a business, it's your problem. But we're not breeding the darn rats. They're just coming, and then we can't do anything about them. And I don't say we spent a fortune, but we put a lot of rat poison down, and eventually managed to get rid of them by blocking every hole up in the wall that was coming from next door, a back alleyway, and things like that. But it's a major problem in the town centre, and it needs sorting, and let's find a way to do it, and let's get it done before this town just descends into absolute chaos. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Husker.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't... I don't know what you thought of the executive member's response, but I thought it was disgusting. Sympathy. She shows sympathy. You need that. And this town's suffered enough. And Padiham, same. And Padiham, same. You've got your bins overfull, your waste bins overfull. They're never emptied on time. If it comes to Easter or a bank holiday, they're there from Friday till Tuesday before they're emptied. It's shocking. So you made a good point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Pilling, for taking the time out to bring this issue to our attention. I think, in terms of the response from the executive member, I think from what Mr. Pilling said, this issue had been going on for quite some time, and it was only further down the road that he then was made aware that he needs to bring this up with the council officers and the street scene team. And from my understanding of it is that when that has been brought to the attention of the officers have looked into it and started to take action. If that has not led to a resolution, there's still an issue, then obviously that needs to be escalated. And that is, from the sound of it, that is what Mr. Pilling has said. So what we will do as an executive is ensure that that is looked at and see how we can help to rectify the issue and make that better, not just for Mr. Pilling, but for the town centre and for all those who are residents or even businesses across the borough. And the other thing, in terms of whether it's the town centre or whether it's other parts of the borough, I think we need to recognise that there will be pockets, whether it's individuals or individual businesses, who let the rest of the community down. But the thing is, we don't have a bottomless pit in terms of resource to be able to do that. So we've got to do the best we can with the resource that we have. And I can assure, whether that's Queensgate residents or whether that's Mr. Pilling and the town centre residents and the businesses, that the executive is committed to doing that. And we just heard there, and I don't want to turn this into, a political, this ward or that council or that council. We just heard there, Councillor Hosker said that Padiham the same. So does that mean that that's the fault of the Padiham councillors? No, it's not, because they will be working and doing what they can for those areas as well. And I think what we need to do is get away from the politics of it and actually concentrate on supporting our residents, and that's the most important thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. May I take this opportunity again and thank you so much, Mr. Pilling, for coming along. There is an issue, and we share your plight about what's happening in Burnley, so we have got all the issues here. I'm sure officers are listening, and I'm sure that the police should be listening as well. There's some issues relating to police as well. So let's work together and find a solution. Thank you so much for coming. Right, our agenda item number 5, motions to council. Item 5A, motion to remove the 2-child benefit cap. Councillor Cunliffe, will you move your motion?
Thank you, Chair. Contrary to common perception, the Green Party believes in the common good. We believe in social justice, and just as much we believe as in environmental justice. Indeed, there's no environmental justice without social justice. It's in this spirit, Mayor, that we bring this motion to council. With over 6,000 children in Burnley living well below the breadline, it's clear that we need an honest and open discussion about child poverty in our town, which results in positive action. And it's kind of related to what we were discussing earlier. More than 50 organisations have called for this 2-child cap to be abolished, including the Church of England, the TUC, the Children's Society, Joseph Rowntree Foundation, etc. So it's with this in mind, we hope that all members will support this motion so that the first steps towards concrete action can be taken in removing the two-child cap within Burnley. And with this, I move the motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Lorner, will you second that motion?
I second the motion.
Right. Any member? Councillor McGowan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cosmotan over there a second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I actually thought this council had moved past this nonsense. But look, we have another motion here, this time from the Green Party, which has absolutely nothing to do with what Burnley Borough Council is all about. It's not something we have any power over. It's not something we can help residents with. And it's just a sad game of politics in what is meant to just be our local council. The people who send us here expect us to focus on local issues that they care about, fixing problems the council is responsible for. That's exactly what me, Alan and Joanne do in Aptoma Park. It's exactly what members of our group do in other areas that they represent. So when I see a motion talking about national policy, it's not only a waste of all of our time, but it's also a sad indictment of those whose only contribution in this place isn't dealing with what we can resolve for people, but rather playing fantasy politics and pretending we actually have a say over something we don't. In this case, the UK's welfare policy. Look, we all have our opinions on a wide variety of national topics. That's to be expected, but that's not the issue here. We need to get real and stop wasting each other's time with motions that have no place in Burnley Borough Council. I get that Councillor Cunliffe wants to stand for Parliament, all credit to you, but this is frankly embarrassing. If you ever do get there, which I doubt you will, but then you can bring this debate up as a topic in Parliament where it belongs. But the sooner we can get back to Burnley Borough Council matters, the better. For the reasons I've outlined, I'll be voting against this motion and any other motion which has no relevance to the functions of this council, because local politics is just that, local. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Steele? Are you not here? Councillor Birtwistle then?
Mr. Mayor, I'm appalled by the statements just made from the representative from the Conservative Party. We all should be concerned about the welfare of the children in this borough, whether it's in this council chamber or anywhere else. We have the right in this council chamber as elected members to bring forward our concerns to this council about the poverty that is now engulfing parts of our town. We've talked about Queensgate and other areas of the town that are badly run down. The poverty in those areas are very, very bad. It's very bad, particularly for the children in those areas. I'm glad he wasn't speaking about my children, because they don't live in those areas. But if that is the Conservative view of what's going on in the poverty-stricken areas of this town, and to affect the children of this town, the most weakest members of our society, because he doesn't want to talk about it in this council chamber, because he doesn't feel we should be talking about it as elected members. It's his right. He can vote against this if he will. We as Lib Dems will be supporting this. We believe it is right that we can discuss these problems. If we can't discuss them here, where can the residents go? Obviously the Member of Parliament is supporting his views, so they can't go to him, because he will say, I can't do anything about it. But we have the right in this council chamber to discuss the issues that affect our town, particularly our children. And if our children are going hungry, if our children are suffering poverty, if our children are living in some of the damp, rat-infested properties of this borough that we've talked about tonight in Queensgate and in other areas of the town, if he doesn't want to talk about that, then the door's there. Just go through the door, and you don't need to get involved in this motion. It is a simple motion that you can either agree to or reject. That is your prerogative. But we are entitled to discuss this tonight, and I tell him any night, and if he doesn't like that, then so be it. We can discuss these issues tonight and any night if we believe that our residents that vote for us or don't vote for us are suffering the poverty that is being loaded on them at this time due to child poverty. We will support this. This is a Lib Dem policy as well as a policy from the Green Party. We will support this. We want our children of this borough to have a safe, secure and well-fed future, so that when they do grow up, they don't grow up to be poverty-stricken. When they go to school, we want to make sure that they are not hungry, so they can't get educated. We are here to secure the future of the most important residents in this town. That is our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Dexter, as well. Just regarding this, I just want to re-emphasise what my colleague, Councillor McGowan, said here. This is a national policy, not a local one. As much as Councillor Birtwistle may like to pull on people's heartstrings, I'd like to point out he's also standing for Parliament next year, or whenever the next general election is. Maybe that's got something to do with the way he's directing all this bad feeling towards us, just for stating that this is a national policy that we can't affect. And to turn around and say that people shouldn't contact their MP because he's got the exact same opinion without actually asking him in the first place, completely contradicts what a Member of Parliament does. And you should know that, as you stood as what previously. A Member of Parliament represents every single resident within their constituency, whether they be Conservative, Liberal Democrat, Green, Labour or Independent. And for you to stand there tonight and actively tell residents not to contact their Member of Parliament if they've got an issue, that is wrong. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Barton.
Thank you. I have to completely disagree with my Conservative colleagues over there. This is a local issue. As a school governor, as a trustee of charities that support families going through the highest levels of deprivation, I see the level of support and funding that is required to feed our children locally. It is hitting our school budgets. It is charitable donations, all of which should not be necessary because people should have enough money to feed their children. And it is a political decision that has resulted in many, many families across our borough being left in poverty. And I'm afraid that that is simply unacceptable and it should be in anybody's book.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I just clarify? I am not standing for Parliament, so I will just clear that up. But what I will say is, I think it's very, very. What we don't want is this to become a party political broadcast from one candidate to another. This is a very simple motion, and it shouldn't require this much discussion. And I think what we need to remember is this is about the most vulnerable in society, but it should be very simple. And I don't think anybody wants to see, whether that's people in the gallery or people at home who are watching, some of the comments that are being made. But I was just going to say, I think we just need to move to the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. I'm just shocked at our Conservative members. I despair. We have a constitution. It's readable. It's there. You can all see it. You've got a copy when you became a councillor, or you should have done at any rate. And it says on there quite interesting what we're allowed to discuss and what motions we're allowed to raise and on what basis, whether they affect the vast majority of the town or anything like that, that we can do. And that's all that the Green Party have done with this, whether we agree with it or not. But you did that, correctly, because Councillor Birchall said, he didn't say don't go and see your MP. He actually said the MP, if you go and see the MP, he's already got his view made up. He said, good job, he's not on planning. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. But you've got the Constitution. I know the officers check these motions very thoroughly to make sure that they fit within the Constitution and we have something to do. Please, let's get it sorted out and let's not start getting political on everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shah Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with regards to this motion and the reason why we're doing it, I think we've got every right to put a motion through as members and to discuss it. And I can understand, I can clearly see what the two councillors rejecting the idea of this motion. They are paid staff members of our Conservative Party MP. So regardless of what they say, that's clearly what they are. They're trying to hide the kamikaze economics that their party started for the last 2 years. That has left people like myself with £200 extra in my mortgage. That's the reason why they don't want to discuss such things as these. That's the reason why people are in poverty. And they don't want to discuss it. And that's the reality. They don't want to discuss actions of their colleagues in Westminster that has created this poverty. I, for one, will be supporting this, and that's the reality of all, is Conservatives don't want you to discuss policies that their colleagues, for no reason or other, has created this poverty in our town. And the hypocrisy of it all. Earlier on we heard how we as a council should do this and that. But now, when we as councillors can do something, they want to devoid all responsibilities. That's what it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Husker, you want to say something? Yeah. I think then we move on to Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not a paid member. I don't work for MP. I'm a Conservative councillor and I don't pretend to be anything else. So when I come in this chamber, I speak about local issues. And all you lot here know I only ever speak about local issues. I don't get involved in politics like Burwistlow does, neither like this lad here going for MP does. I don't. I just speak about what matters to this area. And that's what concerns me. And that's what should concern most of us in here. What happens in MPs and what happens at Parliament, whichever government's in, we didn't say. We always get short end at stick. Conservatives, then whoever's in the council, we always get backlash on what they do. So I'm sorry, I'm speaking from that. I speak for what I do. I'm a councillor. I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud of what these are to do. And people work hard. We're not MP, not pretending to be MP. And Mike Anwar just said there, he's not going for MP and I'm not going for MP either. Hopefully I do feel we'd probably call them.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, I'm going to move on to Councillor Cunliffe. You have a final right to reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah. I'm not going to take up half the arguments being put forward. For me, it's pretty simple. The local and what goes on locally is connected to the regional, is connected to the national, and all these things are interconnected. They always have been, they always will be. And if we've got some powers that says we can send a message that Burnley is struggling to a different level of government, then I think we should try and do that. And we're just exercising that power to do that. It's not about national elections or anything like that. It's about sending a message. And if those figures are right, that is 6,000 children in Burnley that was below the red line, and they could, if this cap's removed, they could benefit from that, then we should send a strong message. So hopefully members will agree with me on that, so we can send a strong message. But most importantly, carry on this conversation, because I'm glad tonight this has opened a conversation about this issue in the town. And I know it's something that most of us as councillors will see or hear from. We'll be involved in Burnley together. We'll be transport the food bank or transport other local residents who are struggling at this time, whether they're working or non-working. Everyone's struggling. So this is a conversation we need to go on and work together on, so that these figures that we're seeing in front of us get diminished quickly and as soon as possible. And this is just one way to try and achieve that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. All those in favour, please show. All those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Thank you. That motion is carried. Agenda item 6, items for decision. We have a number of decision items before us this evening under agenda item 6. The first 5 of these are listed on the agenda as financial decisions. These are followed by 4 items which are listed on the agenda as constitutional decisions. Can I point out to members that items of decision by council are treated as motions. Once a proposal has been moved and seconded, members may speak once and for a maximum of 5 minutes. Member may then only speak again on an amendment. Where appropriate, executive minute extracts have been published as an agenda supplement with recommendations to council highlighted in bold. Item 6A, Revenue Monitoring Report 2023-24. Question 1. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report's recommendations as outlined in executive minute?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the report as outlined with the recommendations.
Right. Can I ask Councillor Townsend, will you second those recommendations, as Councillor Graham is not with us today, so Councillor, you are deputising Councillor Graham. Yeah.
I shall second, Mr. Mayor.
Any member? Councillor Conley.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one quick question regarding revenue around Townley Hall and the facilities Townley Park, because it seems to be missing from what revenue we do actually bring in from those, the jewel in the crown of Burnley as such. So maybe that, if someone could answer, what's the revenue that's currently incoming on Townley Hall, the park areas, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. And all those in favour, please show. Sorry. Is there anything? Oh, there got some 2 more here then. Councillor Birtwistle here, and then Councillor Baker. Oh no, just. Sorry, you were mixed up here.
I thought Councillor Townsend wanted to come in for a response.
Yeah, a response. Councillor Townsend, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to Councillor Cunliffe, you wouldn't find that in this report, because this is an all-up summary of all the activities that are going on across the council. But obviously, if you have a specific question about incomings at Townley Hall or anywhere else within the borough, then scrutiny is an excellent place where that can be brought up by colleagues who are on scrutiny, because these reports do go to scrutiny. But if you want to send Councillor Graham or myself a question on what actual details you're looking for, we'll be more than happy to respond on that basis. Thank you.
Right, yeah. Okay, now we are going for the votes here. All those in favour, please show. Okay. All those against, please show. Any abstentions? Okay. This item is carried. Item 6B, Capital Monitoring Report 2023-24, Quarter 1. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report's recommendations as outlined in Executive Minute 42?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the report.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those recommendations?
I shall second, Mr. Mayor.
Any member? Councillor Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to illustrate my point, I think if we look on page 33 and we start to look at the incomings, the capital expenditure for Townley Hall, and obviously this is something that I support to keep this building going and the renovations, etc. So we're kind of up to 2 million or 2.3 million. I think the 0.3 was not from council funds, was some other funds, if I'm reading that correctly, Mr. Mayor. But in the sense of, as I don't quite get a sense, and I will follow up with Councillor Graham or the leader of the council on, and finance officers on the revenue for Townley Hall. But it seems like if we are going to have a bill of 2 million going forward, and that's going to repeat itself to keep the hall in condition, next 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years, etc., we need to have a revenue stream from within that process to pay for that. And when we're sitting on £60 million of artwork within there, it seems like we're sat on a pot of gold there that could be used to extract that revenue from the same place to keep for the upkeep in. Now, you know, so this is my question of how do we get creative on the amazing assets we've got and not just have them as, you know, a liability in the sense of we're just paying out on them and not accruing a revenue. There should be events there every weekend during the spring and summer, and the artworks there should be able to benefit from those. You know, you look at museums across the country and across the world, their revenues are up in the sense of they're boosting tourism, and there's 60 million quid worth of artwork in there, needs to be exhibited and curated properly, not just within the borough, but outside of the borough as well, so that we can actually pay for Townley Hall from the revenues that we do create. So that's my point on this, Mr. Mayor. So hopefully we will be getting more creative on this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, you want to respond?
I just note Councillor Cunliffe's comments, really, but in terms of us looking to always exploit Townley Hall for its greatness and basically how we can generate more revenue from that greatness and how people revere it around the borough, we're always looking to be creative. So if there are new ideas, new events and new opportunities, this executive, this council will always be open to those because there's no greater marketing thing for Burnley than people seeing Townley Hall. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show for the motion. Okay. All those against, please show. Any abstentions? Right. The motion is carried. The item is carried. Yeah. Right. Our next item is 6C, Treasury Management Activity 2023-24, Quarter 1. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report's recommendation as outlined in the executive minutes 43?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the report.
Councillor Townsend, will you second the recommendations?
I second the recommendations, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to quote a few words because I think we all understand how important Treasury management is, bearing in mind some of the headlines that we've seen from councils around the country over these last couple of years in terms of financial difficulties that some have run into. Treasury management is now appearing in front of you on a will be appearing on a quarterly basis, stressing really how important it is that we all keep an eye on what's going on within the council. But I'm going to basically just quote from a report that's actually going to Audit and Standards tomorrow from the Grant Thornton, the external auditors that we have. Burnley Council has a well-managed treasury management system and adheres to a prudent policy on borrowings. And I know there's been a lot of concerns sometimes about borrowings and capital assets that this council has, but I think those words from the auditor spell it out that we have our treasury management indicators well under control. I second.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week there was an audit training and the auditor, the contracted auditor turned up and gave, unfortunately not many of us councillors turned up, which was kind of disappointing. But it was interesting that a few of us did push them quite far on actually trying to get towards that Councillor Townsend put through. So I think it is, you know, you've got to hold your hand up as, you know, credit where credit is due. That the council and the officers are doing a good job on tightening the ship in very difficult times. But I mean, for me to hold my hand and say, listen, I need to learn more about this, and I think there's a lot of us in this room that need to learn a lot more about this, because it is scary when you look at it, but there's a massive level of responsibility that we all share in making sure that this is a tight ship. And from what we've pressed from her, it's quite a tight ship. And the alarm bells are ringing across the country for local councils, and local councils are going through different times. So I think I just urge my own group and everyone else from other groups on the audit committee and other committees to get involved a bit more in this. And, you know, I think the LGA, etc., do courses on auditing, etc. Quite a few of us need to step up on that so that we're lending a hand to the officers a bit more and to the executive in whatever way we can in making sure that this tight ship is there. And then on the opposite side of that, as I said earlier, getting a bit more creative in creating a bit more revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, you want to? No, okay. Right, all those in favour of this item, please show. Okay. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Right, this item is carried. Item 6D, revenue budgets 2024 to 27. Latest position and savings proposals. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report's recommendations as outlined in Executive Minutes 44?
I move the report, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second the report?
I second the report, Mr. Mayor, and would just like to highlight in paragraph 10 of the report on the risk and sensitivity, where it highlights in Table A basically the spending power reductions over the last probably about 7 or 8 years there, which strongly indicates that Burnley has taken a greater hit than across England and the North West generally in terms of our core spending power. Year after year, government cuts continue to hit us greater than anywhere else in the country. And when we go back to some of the problems that were highlighted quite rightly by residents who came here to complain about certain issues in their wards, it can all be driven back to some of those key decisions that have been taken in terms of where this country prioritises its resources. Now, obviously, we're still having to close budget gaps every year, and this report is the first of those. This is the first step towards setting the budget in February next year, and obviously it's there now for, if councillors agree to this, we're part way to filling the gap that we have to fully close when we get to February next year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, any member? Okay, no one there. Right, okay, all those in favour, please show. Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? Right, this item is carried. Item 6E, Climate Action Fund, Burnley Green Activities Project. Councillor Harbour, will you move the reports and recommendations as outlined in Executive Minutes 39?
I'll move that report, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Mr. Mayor.
Any member? Councillor... Councillor Brindle, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a general comment I'd like to make on all the reports from 6 to 6E, that as chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, I have requested officers arrange adequate training for all members, all parties, so that they better understand exactly what is going on in the accounts. And I hope, despite what Councillor Conliffe said about few people turning up, that more people will take advantage of these sessions to be arranged and therefore understand exactly what all the implications are on the budgets going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, okay. Councillor Townsend, anything to say from your side? Are you okay? Right. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to welcome the report with regards to the funding that's coming in, and for the I think it's 330,000. And a few years back, we separated the leisure services and culture services from the council, and we've now seen the fruit of its success when it's able to go out and bid for these fundings to work for the Climate Action Fund, and you know, do a lot of work around that. So I welcome the report, and I want to thank Burnley Leisure for contributing and being able to being able to get this funding and do a lot of work around the town, around the initiative with regards to Burnley Green activities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Going for vote. All those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Right, this item is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 6F, constitutional updates, reporting and appointments to committees. Mr. Anwar, will you move the report?
I move the report, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second the report?
Second the report, Mr. Mayor.
This report sets out 3 items, the first of which is for noting only. We will therefore take that item first. Does any member wish to say anything in relation to paragraph 4 relating to waivers of call-in? Thank you. The call-in waivers are noted. We shall now move on to the other 2 items in the report which require a vote. At paragraph 5, members are requested to note the revised political balance of the council and to approve a number of consequential changes to committees as outlined in Appendix 4, which was published as part of the supplementary agenda pack. Since that pack was published, we have been notified that the Conservative group wishes to nominate Councillor Steele to the Audit and Standards Committee. Councillor Anwar, will you move the changes to Labour Group Committee appointments?
I move the changes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those changes?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hosker, will you move the changes to Conservative Group Committee appointments?
Yeah, I move it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Baker, will you move the changes to the... Oh, sorry. I missed... Councillor Whittaker. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll gladly second that.
Yeah, Councillor Whittaker, will you second that? Yeah.
Yeah, I gladly second that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Right. Coming back to Councillor Baker now. I was rushing. Councillor Baker, will you move the changes to the Liberal Democrat Group Committee appointments?
I'll move those chambers and applaud the executives' health incentive for this young man to run up and down all night and live to a great long life when he's really healthy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Birtwistle, will you second those changes?
I second them, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cunliffe, will you move the changes to the Green Group Committee appointments?
Happy to move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lawner, will you second those changes?
I second those, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Those recommendations are approved. Thank you. Finally, in relation to this report, we shall take paragraph 6, which relates to the scheme of delegation that is contained in part 3 of the Council's constitution. Councillor Anwar, will you move the recommendations?
I move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any member? No. Thank you. All those in favor, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Those recommendations are approved. Item 6G, substitution scheme for disabled members. Councillor Anwar, will you move the recommendations?
I move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those?
Second them, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any member? Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, we want to propose a slight amendment to remove one of the sentences under paragraph 3 in 6G, Mayor. So it would be removing the second.
Councillor Cunliffe, please speak a little louder. Please.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So we will be removing and request approval of their participation in the scheme. Each request will be dealt with on its own merits towards decision is the end of the sentence. So we will just be including under paragraph 3, members will be required to declare their disability in writing to the head of Legal and Democratic Services. That's what we're proposing to amend. So that's what it would remain as.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say on this report, obviously this is something that came to member structures as a much wider substitute scheme. And in order to ensure that we could make council meetings and for people who want to become elected members, make it as accessible for them so that anybody with a disability can and is then welcomed into becoming a councillor. And I think the recommendations that have been made in this report is a sensible approach, and it's a first step towards making sure that we make Burnley Council as accessible as we possibly can for all members and anybody who wants to become a councillor. The report has been through member structures, and from what I can remember, there was a consensus, so I really don't think there's any need to be making any amendments. All parties, all groups agreed on the wording that's in there. So, as I said, it's been moved and seconded, and I think we should just move to the vote and go ahead with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Townsend, you want to add something? Are you okay? Okay, right. We are going for the votes. Please show all in favor of this item here. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Those recommendations are approved. Item 6H, parental leave policy for elected members. Councillor Anwar, will you move the recommendations?
I move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those?
Second them, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any member? Councillor Barton.
Thank you. I would just like to emphasise the incredible support that I have for this item. Having parental leave available to elected members is well overdue and is another step towards decreasing the barrier towards women's participation in local and national politics. We do see that as women politicians, we face so many additional challenges, and it is extremely welcome that we are taking one of those barriers away. It is no accident at all that my own daughter reached the age of 18 before I became an elected member here at Burnley Council, and I think we can see from looking around the room that we are definitely heading in the right direction in terms of getting the age and gender demographics that we truly represent our communities correct. Thank you.
Any more? Anyone? Okay, all those in favor for this item, please show. Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. Those recommendations are approved. Item 6I, review of key decision threshold. Councillor Anwar, will you move the recommendations?
I move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, will you second those?
Second the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Any member? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Those recommendations are approved. Item 7 on the agenda, reports from committee chairs. Please can members note that for this item, members should not refer to name, individuals or addresses when asking questions or making observations. Questions on delegated council functions such as planning and licensing should be directed to the relevant committee chair rather than executive members. Right. 7A, scrutiny. Councillor Gail Barton, will you move the report?
I move my report.
Thank you. Any member? Okay. Right. Next item, 7B, audit and standards. Councillor Margaret Brindle, will you move the report?
I move the report.
Any member? Thank you. 7C, development control. Councillor Saeed Chaudhry, will you move the report? No. Please repeat your words.
Yes, I move my report.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Any member? Thank you. 7D, licensing. Councillor Muhammad Ishtiaq, would you move the report?
Mr. Mayor, I move my report.
Thank you. Any member? Okay. Thank you. Item 8, strategic plan progress reports. Members will see that on each table there are some copies of an updated on strategic commitment PE3 in relation to reducing homelessness, which was accidentally omitted from Council Harbour's progress report. I will take each report in order. I will ask for any questions on the report and the executive member will respond to a number of questions. The same procedure will then be followed by observations. Can I remind members with a question or observation to clearly quote the page number and reference? Also, will members please concise with their questions and observations? First one is from the leader, Councillor Anwar. Will you please move your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move my report, and in doing so, there's just a couple of things that I just want to highlight. And the first one that I just want to touch on is that obviously all members will be aware that we had recently the opening of Pioneer Place, but Real Cinema, and obviously members were invited to that. And I just want to thank all members, really, and that's from all members in this chamber. Just simply for it, just goes to show what we can achieve when we work together, and I think that's really important. And I think that shows for how it benefits the town as well, benefits the whole borough. Already we've seen, I've heard on social media and seen some of the queues outside, whether that's or Nando's or the Acaro Lounge, but it is well used as well. So again, it's a fantastic addition to the offer that we have at Burnley Town Centre. But as I said, just to thank all members for their support on that. Just want to mention also the over the summer the work that took place on the HAP programme, lots and lots of different organisations and community voluntary sector organisations as well are involved in that, in delivering that for some of our most vulnerable young people. And we've heard already earlier on today about how important it is to support the most vulnerable, but some fantastic, and I got the opportunity to actually volunteer on a number of those sessions and really enjoyed that. And then also just want to mention that, you know, we talk about that aspiration that we have of becoming a university town, being, you know, an aspirational, you know, forward-thinking place, and change that perception. And I had the opportunity, as well as attending one of the graduations at Preston as part of UCLan, but also attending a graduation from Burnley College and through UCLan. But having to, you know, walking through the town centre, that aspiration is becoming a reality of the fact that we are becoming a university town, and seeing local people who would normally not have access to those opportunities actually graduating and celebrating that with their families. Again, it's just another example of what we can achieve as a borough, and we can change how you know, the town is looked on, and I think it's, you know, something that we should all be proud of. The final thing I just want to touch on is obviously in the report, and I have brought this to the attention of group leaders, and it has been spoken of at last full council. It's just the issue around obviously the county combined authority with the Lancashire County Council and the two upper tiers, Blackburn and Blackpool, are obviously talking to government about putting together a deal for a devolution deal for Lancashire. I said at the last meeting that obviously the disappointment, I expressed my disappointment at the fact that districts are not included as part of those discussions or as part of that deal. But I think what we need to do is we need to put aside, you know, that disappointment at the fact that we're not having a say. And I think the important thing to focus on here, and the high-level things that we have seen as leaders, is the fact that the deal is not a good one for Lancashire. It's not a good deal for Burnley. I have shared that those initial impressions that I have, as I said, with group leaders, and I think they feel the same way. I feel that Lancashire is having to settle for less. We look at neighbouring Manchester, Greater Manchester, what's happening at Merseyside and even West Yorkshire around us, and you know the deals that they're getting, and yet we seem to be rushing into something that is not going to benefit the people of Lancashire in the long term. And I think that, you know, the fact that we're not being, you know, at the moment we're not hearing our voices not being heard. That's not the fault really of whether it's the fault of the upper tiers, but it's government policy is saying at the moment that districts do not get to have a say. There is an amendment going through the House of Lords at the moment, House of Lords amendment that will go through, that is asking that districts be given a voice, but whether that goes through the House of Commons is anyone's guess. But I want to reiterate that our position has been really, really clear from the off, that every single one of us, and I think we want the best for Lancashire, we want the best for Burnley, we want a deal for Lancashire, we want a devolution deal for Lancashire, but it's got to be the right deal. As I said, what we've seen so far, I don't feel is a great deal in terms of that. And so we do want devolution, but the other thing to mention is that the government's white paper itself says that the best deal is one of a mayoral combined authority. And when I say mayoral combined authority, I'm not talking about local government reorganisation. I'm talking about a mayor. We would stay the same, and I think it's important. And that's the resolution that went through this council. And the government's own white paper says that would be the best deal for anyone going for a devolution deal. So I just feel at this moment in time, as I said, from what I've seen, that we're not getting the best for Lancashire. This deal is not a good one. But as I say, we'll have to wait and see how it all progresses. And until we've seen what's actually in the final paper, then we can have our say. But I just want to share that with members and bring them up to date with that. I move my report, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Thank you. Any questions? Any observations? Councillor Deputy Mayor Shawsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a bit surprised there was no questions. And with regards to observation, Mr. Mayor, and it's page 134. It's the combined authority. And as the council leader outlined, he feels that there's no good deal for Lancashire or no good deal for Burnley. And if that's the case, would he agree with me and my concerns that district councils such like ourselves is actually running out of things to do? And the reason I say that is earlier on we had speakers who came and who talked about various things, some of which is not within our scope, such as transport and so on. Would this deal further take away decisions that could be made locally, but is being made in places like Blackpool, Blackburn, and Preston? I wonder what my esteemed colleague from and Hapton would think of that, Councillor Hosker. And in my view, I think we really need to think about and how we go forward. And there was a plan, and there was proposals from this chamber that went through, looking at elected mayor, and which the government would have agreed. But unfortunately, colleagues within Lancashire County Council and other boroughs, the two unitary boroughs did not agree with that. And in my view, what we want and what people would want from listening to speakers who came earlier on is unity authorities within Lancashire, as in Burnley, Burnley, Pendle, Rosendale coming together and forming those unity authorities that they can make decisions themselves. Going through this combined authority, there's no benefit at all. It's just benefiting those three big unity organisations. And I'm surprised there's been no response or questions to the leader with regards to this. One of the biggest reorganisation that is happening, yet opposition colleagues do not ask questions. And I'm a bit puzzled at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an observation on the very same topic that Councillor Shah Hussain, Deputy Mayor, talks about. Obviously, I don't think Councillor Hussain actually understands this topic from what he said. And I'll just give him the best of my knowledge on it to hopefully bring him up to speed on it. Basically, there is a big reorganisation taking place. This proposal that Lancashire have gone to government with, it's after a long road of district councils across Lancashire talking about a variety of options. Unitary councils, which you mentioned, which I remember back a few years ago campaigned against because it had meant this council being abolished and it happening from Blackburn. And that's what you were advocating at the time. Still seems like he agrees with it. But this actual combined authority, whether I agree or disagree with it, what it essentially is for Councillor Hussain to understand is Lancashire County, the upper tier authority, are going to get more powers from central government, if this comes through, to deal with big infrastructure projects, health, and things of that nature. But this council will have no less powers than we currently have today. There will be no change to district, as far as we're aware. Now, if a member wants to, I can see Councillor Townsend putting his hand up, if a member wants to stand up and correct that, then I will stand corrected. But as far as I was aware, whether you like it or not, it almost seems like the districts have really, and we're included in this in Burnley, have basically lost our opportunity to be involved because of the bickering that took place across the whole of Lancashire with the different districts wanting different things, different unitaries, different combined authorities, a mayor, not a mayor. So the observation I just wanted to make was to really bring Councillor Hussain up to speed on this, because the one thing I do agree with him on is that every member in this room should probably know a little bit more about the changes that are happening to the upper authority, but it's certainly not the way that Councillor Hussain presented it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. This is a really serious issue that's in front of us and is evolving all the time. And it's something that I welcome the fact that group leaders were invited in and told about this as soon as it dropped, the latest sort of position paper. But I think going forward, yeah, I agree, right, we do have to all learn a lot more about this, and particularly scenarios that might play out beyond sort of the next year or two, because this is something there's multiple issues that could happen on this, depending on the way the political tea leaves fall over the next couple of years as well. So it's interesting to have a scenario planning, I think a deeper scenario planning, and as a district, you know, when do we move, you know, when do we move again, and when do we put a position forward, because it's part of sequencing and timing on these issues to strategically position ourselves for the issue that's best benefit for the town. Is something that we need to discuss openly, and I'm glad that that discussion is open. So that's one of my observations. My other observation on this is that I think within that there needs to be clarity on what this means for the future of services to residents, from what already exists in the two tiers to what it might look like going forward, because I think if we're going to engage residents in this more and explaining what it means for them going forward, we need to get a grasp of that as well. And I for one, don't fully understand through the different possible scenarios going forward what that might mean. Of, you know, let's take recycling, collection of waste, but then recycling of waste. Currently, collection of waste is from the district, and then recycling of the waste is at Lancashire at the upper tier. Now, would that change, and what would that look like in these different scenarios going forward? Or is that not something that's on the table at the moment? But it could be if the scenario changes and we go to 3 unitaries. So it becomes quite complex. So I think it's for scenario planning for the council, it'd be good to see maybe through working structures, see a more detailed positional paper on scenarios that are coming forward. You know, and at the moment, I would say that we're against this position that's been offered at the moment. It is weak, it's not the best option, but we need to plan beyond that, I think, so that we can find out what can play out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly to say, Councillor Hussain suggested that we haven't made any comments or asked any questions. I just wanted to point out that we did have a group meeting and we spent a very long time going through this and discussing the outcomes and the possibilities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most people will know in this council, I've spent many years discussing these things, longer than I care to remember. And I do agree with Councillor McGowan on one thing, which is basically that basically the train has left the station, and district councils, along with all the other councils, spent far too long dithering over this. We needed to make some decisions earlier, probably about 5-6 years ago, and we could have kept control in our own hands. Some might not have liked some of the decisions that we had to take, but we would have at least kept control. We have that control wrenched from us now, and the die is now cast. Whatever Councillor Cunliffe says about being against, that counts for nothing now. These authorities are proceeding, and we're not in the room with them. I just want to say a few other words about this as well. We didn't get the most enterprising place in the UK, which we celebrated last week, by relying on people in Preston, or anywhere else for that matter in this county. Our vision in this council chamber got us that, and the way we've progressed since. Our partnership with our businesses and the unique pride and passion of our people have got us to where we are in developing this borough from all political stripes over the last 10-15 years. And what we need to say about this deal that I've seen that's on the table, it's not real devolution. It's a centralised command and control. Some powers coming from Whitehall, but not filtering right down, going into Preston, Blackpool and Blackburn as a combined county authority. politicians elected in those towns making decisions for Burnley and East Lancashire. And I don't think anybody can be satisfied in this chamber that we can rely on that. So, basically, it's a plan by those 3 district councils. It will be, in my opinion, a disaster for Burnley and wider East Lancashire. It's a clear and present danger to the future economic development of Burnley, and it destroys local democratic accountability. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't even think the leaders of those 3 councils would argue much against that, or it'd be a very weak defence. Who will the face of Lancashire be? We don't know. And even worse, we won't even have a say. Not us in this chamber, not even people on the streets. Let's be clear, this is the first but most important step that many have striven for in County Hall for many a year. The sidelining of district councils and the growth of Preston into a control centre for more influence on our daily affairs. And finally, just coming back to what Councillor McGowan said about no powers going from this district council, he is completely and 100% utterly wrong. Even in its first step, we lose any influence towards the LEP. I know the LEPs are going anywhere, but that was one thing, where at least there were district representations on that body. I held one of those seats myself for 5 years. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund, you didn't like that one. We've just got £3 million worth of funding that we decided in this council chamber just a few months ago how we would allocate it across the borough. That goes under this arrangement to the combined county authority. And within the rules that are established for county authorities going forward, they can look to bring other powers from district councils upwards into that authority if they so wish at a later stage. That is what they are signing up to. That is what this government will agree to for these 3 councils to allow. We could just end up collecting bins and mowing the grass. That will be it. Why would we trust an organisation that can't even fix our potholes to think about making wider strategic decisions for us? We had to do it ourselves 10 years ago with our businesses, and we can carry on doing that. There's no way we should be trusting the county councils and the 2 unitaries to do it for us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Baker. No, yeah, I'll come back to you after.
Thank you, Mark. But to Councillor Townsend, I do apologise. I won't say I agree with him or not agree with him because I don't understand it, quite frankly. The Chief Executive's lost a lot of air this week. He's had me in his office for an hour, going through it all, trying to explain it and give me the background. And it's to be honest, it's relatively new to me. The group leader, not the group leaders, but the council leader knows, and when Mark was there on these committees, they all know a lot more about it. But this is vital to the rest of us, really. And I think the Chief Executive did actually say he would arrange a training day for us to go through it all. And I think that's what we should have. Tell us what it's all about, because I honestly still don't know I do know now what an upper tier authority is. He did work hard, and he actually gave me a 332-page document to read, which I went through. But I'm still no wiser as to what the actual betterment of a mayoral system over a non-mayoral system is in terms of benefits you actually get with a mayoral and a non-mayoral in terms of money, etc. But I would certainly appreciate some, training it is, I suppose, certainly appreciate some training on telling me what it's all about, and then I can make an informed decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to say I'm not clear on whether the Chief Executive lost his air because he was trying to explain the deal or because he was spending time with you, Councillor Baker. I'm not quite sure which one that was. But we'll let people make their minds up on that one. But I think going back to, I think it's really important questions and obviously the start of this debate, that Councillor Hussain has said, you know, the fact that there have been no questions, but actually the observations and some of the comments made actually show that, one, the fact that we have been, you know, and that's why I've been transparent throughout this process with all of our members, is because I want there to be all of us moving together for what's best for Burnley. So it's important, and it's good to hear the views of colleagues in the room today. With regards to Councillor Cunliffe's question about what we do and when we do it, I think the important thing here is that obviously we've had high-level information that's been shared with me, but I think what we have to wait for is to see what the actual final deal says, and then once we see that and we see the level of detail of what that entails, and then we need to have an opportunity to make a representation or give our viewpoint on where we are with that. Going to Councillor Cunliffe's point about whether this takes away Councillor Cunliffe's point about whether this takes away any functions or any powers or away from you know, the district councils. Again, we're not able to say that, but there is the serious risk and serious danger that could actually happen. That, you know, with the way that the county combined authority is being set up, that is the serious risk. So it's not that that is off the table, and it would mean that key functions being taken away. And that's on projects, but it's also about key function as well. So these are the risks that we have, but it's important that we keep this debate going. And then just to finish, I think, again, you know, Councillor Townsend was involved in these discussions when it happened 5 or 6 years ago. And, you know, we're saying we missed the boat, but the irony is that the person that vetoed that 5 or 6 years ago is the one that's driving it all now and pushing us through and rushing us through a deal that isn't the right one for Lancashire. And my view, and again, I'm new to it all, and we do need to learn as we go along, but my view of it is that devolution means more power locally. I don't think that's happening. What's happening is the opposite of devolution. It's taking away powers from local councils like ours. But we need to keep listening. We need to wait to see what happens, what comes forward, and once we've seen the final level of detail, we can have that discussion and debate, and then we can resolve to decide what we do and what representation we make as a council. But I welcome the debate and I welcome the questions and comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Councillor Whittaker, are you okay? All right. Thank you. That's it from the observations. Let's move on to next item, which is Deputy Leader and Executive Member for Resources and Performance. Councillor Anwar, will you please move Councillor Graham's report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move the report as Councillor Graham is not here. I will try my best to answer any questions that do come up, but if anybody needs any level of detail, we'll make a note of that and ensure that any answers are provided for any members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor McGowan?
PL6, page 139. Thank you, Mr. I'm happy to see that after all this time, we should soon be able to get back in the council chamber. But can I just ask, in this exec member's report, Councillor Graham states that progress is being made on the audiovisual equipment upgrades that will commence once the restoration works have been completed. So can I just get confirmation, what progress have we actually made? Because I just recall at the last meeting, Councillor Oscar, what the hold-up in getting a supplier to fit this equipment. So is the progress referring to the work having now gone out to tender, or is the work actually taking place now?
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor McGowan, for that. Obviously, in terms of the council chamber, we're in a position now when obviously the work on the actual chamber itself is nearing completion. The scaffolding is starting to come down. So obviously the audiovisual equipment can't be fitted until that's all in place. Whether that's been tendered or not, that's a question that I will take away and come back to you on that. But yeah, we're nearing that time when we won't need to be in here. We will be in the chamber. Thank you.
Right. Any more member on this issue? Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. PL6, page 139. just following on from what my colleague Councillor McGowan just mentioned there, the audio-visual equipment in the chamber, I know the council's initially budgeted for £100,000, but do we know how much this is actually going to cost us yet? Have we got a final figure, please?
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Whittaker, for that question. Again, I don't have the level of detail, and if Councillor Graham was here, she might have been able to provide that exact amount. But I think it's important that all of us recognise, one, costs do go up, and especially with all rising inflation and everything related to that. But I think also what we need to focus on is that yes, we have budgeted for that, but having that audiovisual equipment and having some of the equipment that will be in there will make the chamber accessible for all of our members is really, really important, and it's a very important and valid investment that we're making as a council. Thank you.
Councillor Husker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to ask the executive member then, just to clarify, so even though I raised it in July, it still hasn't gone to tender. Is that correct?
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hosker. As I said, I'm not quite sure on where the tender is at or whether it's gone. That is, again, as I said to Councillor McGowan, it is something that I will find out where that's up to and provide a response, an answer to that question. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Right. Okay, any observations? Councillor Conliffe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify, when we put that motion forward to Council a couple of years ago for this audio-visual equipment, when we researched that, we'd looked at the cost of tenders and it was around 60,000–70,000 for audio-visual equipment, bearing in mind that's a few years ago and there's been increases. So, I mean, I think the 100,000 mark was there to give a bit of leeway for putting in fittings for better access and accessibility. That was the nature of the motion we put in that was accepted by council at the time. So I think if we push it, once for me it's not a question of when the tender gets done, it'll get done when it gets done in time for the chamber reopening. That's the most important thing, I think. But I think around the costing, we were figuring about 60,000–70,000 when we sat down with officers at the time. That's what we were looking at. And the officers were quite clear in getting some tenders in and things like that. So that's what we're looking at. So it might be around that, give and take. Presuming the cost of things have gone up a little bit, but hopefully that clarifies a little bit.
Right. Okay, Councillor Anwar, you want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe, for that observation. I think, obviously, you're absolutely right. It is what we budgeted, and the price, the cost might not come in at that. But obviously, with rises, things do change, and if it does, but we have budgeted for that amount. But as I said before, I reiterate that it is an important investment that we're making, because one of the biggest issues, as we've had this evening, is with some of our equipment that we have with microphones and things, and people not being able to hear, and especially if people are listening at home, being able to access that as well. I know people are in a real rush to get back into the council chamber, but with some of the dramatics that we see in this theatre is the perfect place to be. So, anyway, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Right, thank you. That's it then. We move on to Executive Member for Community, Health and Environmental Services, Councillor Lubna Khan. Will you please move your report?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move my report, but before doing so, I'd just like to highlight a few key messages. I think if you read the report, there's a lot of good that's been happening, a lot of good things going on. I won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to highlight, obviously, the importance of the downtown. It's becoming we have many partners working together on this, and it's a really impressive. If nobody's been, please do go down. It's amazing for the community. It's amazing for people, with young children, anybody who's struggling. And also, they actually have a meeting room that you can actually book. So if anyone hasn't been, please go down and have a look at this. It is something that's an amazing initiative. And I have to say, when I started with this portfolio, it was one of the things I was most impressed with. So I'd just like to make a gentle nod to my predecessor, who obviously laid most of the groundwork on this, and officers on their amazing work on this. I'm also pleased the leader of the council did touch on this earlier about Pioneer Place. If you haven't been to Icaro or Nando's, please do go. I've been to both and they're amazing. And also I'm very, very pleased to let members know about the education and enforcement team that's been shortlisted for the best team in the UK award at the annual LARAC, which is the Local Authority Recycling Advisory Committee Conference. It is something to be really impressed with. And just finally, there's many other points in the reports, but hopefully some members will really appreciate this. It's the Operation Centurion, and this is tackling ASB hotspots and has been running in PAD for the past month with many positive results from residents. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Right. Any questions? Councillor Birtwistle and then the other lady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's PL1 on page 140. I'd just like to ask the executive member, is she aware of the serious antisocial behaviour that takes place around the Marks and Spencer store in Birmingham, the game store, and has she had a conversation with the manager of Marks and Spencer's regarding the serious shoplifting that takes place in that store? And if she hasn't, will she do so? And when she's got the decision, will she take action to ensure that the residents of Burnley, particularly the elderly residents of Burnley, feel safe doing the daily shopping at Marks and Spencer's?
Thank you. Councillor Broughton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. PL1, page 141. It's good to see that fixed penalty notices are being handed out for those who leave their dog mess. I've personally had a number of residents reporting dog mess, particularly in Hapton Village. And whilst I reported it to be cleaned, and I think it's been done actually, I think letting offenders know that if caught they will be fined is no bad thing. I'm not sure if we have any more of the warning signs left, but I've seen that Keep Britain Tidy have a package where we could get hard-hitting signs. If I send over some details, is this something the exec member would be interested in? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, you want to respond to these two? You want to I've got Councillor McGowan and then Whittaker. Go. Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is PL1, page 140. This report talks about implementation of initiatives to maintain a clean and environmentally friendly borough. So I wanted to raise the situation being faced by residents on Valley Gardens right now. Currently, there's a proposal to build a gasification site next to this residential area, and residents are already alarmed at the presence of strong odours and an unknown substance, dust and ash, appearing on the windowsills daily. I've seen it myself, and it is quite concerning. So, given that we've had these reports and now a new proposal to expand the site has come in, would the exec member please direct Environmental Health to conduct an unannounced air quality test in this specific area? And I say specific area because I think we need to see if it's actually posing a risk to health for the residents around there. And I think that's the least that they deserve. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. PL1, page 141. As many as you know, I'm a retired police officer, so I take a lot of interest in antisocial behaviour and anything that's crime-related. It's good to see that the police carried out an operation in Burnley Town Centre regarding e-scooters and antisocial behaviour just a couple of weeks ago. I'd just like to ask the executive member, are any more of these planned, and will we be asked to go and view them? Because I think it was a great operation, and I'd just like to know, have we got any more planned for the future? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Khan, you want to respond to all these four?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the first point by Councillor Gordon Birtwistle. Thank you for the question, Councillor Birtwistle. Part of it was answered by Councillor Whittaker. Off the back of the e-scooters in the town, we did, that was basically primarily based around the issues around Marks and Spencer's. If there's anything I can do to make elderly people feel safe, of course I would be more than happy to oblige and personally speak to them as well, Councillor Burke-Russell. Councillor Broughton, of course I would love to be open to anything that you think could help, and I'm actually quite looking forward to speaking to you regarding that, so thank you for that. Councillor McGavin, yes, we would love to look into that. That's not an issue at all. If anything, some of the suggestions that have come out tonight, you know, if they came to the executive without being in full council, it may have been something we could have given feedback on today, but more than happy to do that. And then finally, Councillor Whitaker, I think the leader of the council would like to also just make a note on your comments, your questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 140, PE4 or PL1. Just considering the conversation that we had earlier, just got a couple of questions. Maybe the first one. Would you consider putting a small section in your report for next time on Queensgate area and an update on that? Because I think it's quite relevant that there's a follow-up on that. And secondly, can you take it away and discuss my suggestion earlier of having a cross-party task force on that area that some of us can get involved in if we wanted to, if that's something you would consider moving forward? I don't expect you to answer that because it's a broader question. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Khan, you want to... Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe, for your observation. I think, are we still on questions?
No question yet.
We're still on questions. Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. I don't think there's any need to put into reports specific areas or to single out specific areas. Any of the concerns that have come through about Queensgate tonight are very important. I'm not negating that at all, but they are themes that run through the town, and to actually specifically single out Queensgate would mean that this is one of the areas that we're most concerned about. And although obviously we sympathise with the residents, and just to point out that sympathising with residents does not mean you're not doing anything about it. It means that you obviously understand their problems and you feel bad about the problems that they're facing. We are doing things about them. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you at any point, Councillor Cunliffe, regarding that. Secondly, your second question was about cross-party task force. I totally agree that we need to work together. We need to continue to support each other. Anybody that knows me in this chamber will know that I'm always open to speaking to any member from any party. I think, you know, for the entire time I've been here, I've always been very open to conversations. So I'm not specifically sure whether a task force is the answer given type resource and obviously funding that we have, and whether we can actually justify that, especially the amount of pressure that councillors have on their time. But I do think that all those that are interested in working together should do so, and I for one would be happy to do that, Councillor Cunliffe. Thank you.
Right, I'm going for observations now. Any observations?
Councillor Hosker had a question.
No, he said no, it didn't. Yeah. So let's start from one side. Let's go for Councillor Husker. Observation. Yeah, and then...
Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just trying to make a point of the reduction in antisocial behaviour. It's good news, is this, and let's keep it up. But in doing so, I'd like to thank our Crime Commissioner, Andy Snowden, because at our request, he gave us extra officers to Aptonwood Park and Padiham, which was way overdue. Thank you.
Right. Any more? Councillor Ishtiaq.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. PL1, page 140. I think we listened to quite a long debate around Queensgate and the other areas, but my observation is that I'd like the executive member to take back to the senior officers and street team officers who work in frontline a thank you from me, because every time I've contacted them with an issue in Queensgate, they responded very positively, very quickly, and I think they deserve a thank you, our officers that are working under very limited resources, and let's be honest about that. And secondly, you here sat in the council, this chamber, and under this council, that we have a team that's been nominated for a national award. So, huge congratulations for being nominated. and good wishes for winning that award as well from us. But let's always do that. Let's congratulate officers and congratulate and thank them for the work they're doing as well. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Kelly.
Page 140, PE4. It's a very tenuous link, and I've been trying to find this link all the way through. Burnley FC in the community, one of our partners. I don't know if any of you saw it this morning. There was an absolutely brilliant 15-minute programme about Burnley FC in the community and the work they do with dementia people. We feel we ought to comment on it because it was really, really positive about Burnley. They talked about the football club, they talked about the town itself, and they talked about the work that they're doing with dementia patients. And it was so positive and such a change to see Burnley painted in a really positive light on television. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Khan, you want to respond to these three? We'll come back to you. After you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to note them observations for Councillor Hosker noted about the observation. Councillor Ishtiaq Mohammed noted and thank you. I'll pass them thanks on. And Councillor Kelly, unfortunately I've missed it, but that's noted and I will try to find it. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Deputy Mayor, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm speaking too much today, but I couldn't let this go. And page 140, PE4, and it's about downtown community greengrocers. And following on from Councillor Kelly and mentioning about Burnley and football club in the trust and so on, the good positive work that's been done. And if you look at social media, there's a lot of Burnley stuff on social media as well, again, and focusing on what Burnley Football Club is doing. What I want to observe, and I want the executive member to pass on our thanks to the wonderful team at Downtown and Community Hub, where we can see a brilliant example of partners coming together, organisations and volunteers coming together to, to meet the needs of, residents and, this cost of living crisis. We've got a government that is neglecting everyone. But where we have in Burnley, and that's what Burnley is good at, is coming together and helping people and helping our own. And as we can see, during this, the period this report was done, there was 750 new members that's using that community hub. That was 4,085 new shops, shop events, so where people have gone and used that facility. So when that motion came earlier on, we know why. And it's important that this hub that we support as a council, we encourage partners to come together and help each other, because that's the only way where we can, where we're going to help each other. This government's not going to help people in Burnley. It's Burnley people helping Burnley people. And Councillor Khan, if you can take our observations with regards to the good work they're doing, and long may that continue. Thank you.
Right. Any more observation? No. Councillor Khan, you want to respond to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Shaw, thank you. Your observation is noted. I would like to echo your thanks as well, and I will pass on your gratitude and thanks to the BFC. And also, I would like to add as well that these community partners in getting together are doing something amazing for the community. Nobody's precious and everybody's working for Burnley for the greater good. So it is a massive achievement. And I will with great happiness pass on your thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lubna Khan. Executive Member for Housing and Leisure, Councillor Harbour, will you please move your report?
I'll move my report, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to raise a couple of issues with the executive member, specifically in relation to Calico housing in my ward, which I've had a number of residents come up to me and complain about the state of the repair and the maintenance that is occurring specifically on Crowwood Court, which we've had a number of issues that have been the blight of the residents in that property for months and months and months. The guttering is in a terrible state. The general facilities are in poor condition. And we've got the laughable situation now of having an illegal fire door that apparently is going to take 4 weeks. Yes, you heard it correctly, 4 weeks to get sorted, putting those residents in danger. I just wondered if we have any mechanisms that we can use to expedite things within Calico, because at the moment it's becoming an absolute nightmare, not just in Crowwood Court, but in properties just off Pendle Way as well. And I'm really getting frustrated that no action is being taken. And the more properties that Calico seem to manage, the worse they become on their general repair and maintenance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McGovern.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. P2, page 147. This is regarding the gym equipment that's in this report. Can I just get this one straight? Earlier this year, everyone in Earlier this year, everyone in the council argued with me that we couldn't freeze council tax, increase it to raise an additional 250 grand. Is the exec now finally admitting that our part of council tax really didn't need to increase, seeing as they're now proposing, to spend £500,000 to do Burnley Ledger a favour and buy them brand new gym equipment? Because if that's the case, it really is a slap in the face to everyone who saw their council tax bill rise this year, for us, well, unnecessarily. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councillor Husker, and then I'll come back to Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine's on HMOs. I see, it's being looked into this HMOs. Well, what I want to know is
page number.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. PL4, page 144.
Yeah.
I'm just asking about this HMOs about being in different areas.
Right.
I'm particular St Anne Street. Is it going to involve other areas? Because it just seems to be a problem all over the place, and I'd just like it addressed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harbour, please respond to these questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the points raised by Councillor Steele and his issues with Calico, I'm sure he's in talks with Calico at the moment, and he's dealing with Calico itself. But the points what he's highlighted, I'm more than happy to contact Calico myself and raise his concerns and my concerns on that. The points Councillor McGowan raised regarding the gym equipment at St Peter's, I think what we have here with the Leisure Trust, and Councillor Shaw was saying, touched on it earlier, that trust brought £300,000 into this town with a bid which we couldn't do. There's been a history with the trust, I think, and when we made a decision to create the trust, there were 1 or 2 members who weren't sure about it. But if you look back on the history of it, that trust has been successful. It's been successful because we've supported it and we've needed to support it. And again, when you talk about the effect on residents in this town, many members of this town, many residents in this town use those facilities. So is Councillor McGowan basically saying that we don't invest in them, we don't invest in the trust, we don't invest in the buildings? We have to do that. If you want to see the trust fail, like there's other trusts failing in the country, throughout the country, then by all means come forward with suggestions where you're saying, let's just withdraw the funding altogether, and then all you'll get then is that the trust will be handed back to this Borough Council. So it's important that we do invest in that trust. It's important that we recognise the work, what they've just done, not just in gyms, but you look at things like Big the Streets, you look at things like the Prairie Village, etc. They were the ones who put the bids together, working in partnership with council, which brought in investment to this town and improved our recreation offer throughout the town, whether it was golf, the Prairie, St Peter's, etc., upgrades in Padiham, you know, that's what the trust has done for us. So I'm more than happy to support the trust. The third point about what Councillor Oscar raised and HMOs, I think to be fair to his colleague, Councillor McGowan did raise this issue with St Anne Street, etc., in the scrutiny committee. And it was a reasonable ask, I thought, but we did promise him that we would look at it. And unfortunately, at the moment, St Anne Street won't be included. The reason for that is because it's been a number-based. Wards what are going forward are the ones where the figures add up. I'd be happy to see legislation like this throughout the borough. But we've got to recognise as well that for legislation like this to pass, it's got to be, if you like, led through government. So if the government relaxed the rules and allowed us to do more on this issue, we would do. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Whittaker.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm just checking that I haven't missed
Okay,
anybody out there. I don't think I have.
No, I've got Councillor Whittaker. It puts hands up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. PL3, page 146. Basically, it's about empty houses. We all know that they're an eyesore. They attract antisocial behaviour. We've been speaking about that a lot this evening. We should do everything we can do to stamp it out in our area, and we as councillors should work together to do that. The thing I want to mention on here, or the question I want to ask, is that I'm glad to see in the report that 80 houses are being renovated around the Piccadilly Road area of our town. But can I ask where we're up to with this, please? I've spent some time up there over the last couple of weeks. I do realise that initially we were told it would be completed by September. But bearing in mind, walking around there, I haven't seen anything like that at all. And just with 3 days going left in this month, I'm just wondering if you could give us an update on the delay, and can you provide some new timescales for us for when these properties will actually be renovated? Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Harbour, you want to respond?
I can respond to that, Mr Mayor. I think what Councillor Whittaker was saying there, suggesting there, that Piccadilly Road would be completed by September. I don't think we've ever said that. What we said was that the Piccadilly Road area will be starting in September, October. So what we have to do is we have to finish the scheme off in Gano, first of all, which is not too far away from him. A scheme which I believe enhances that area and looks really well. I said previously in my reports that we've done schemes like this throughout the borough, and Piccadilly, unfortunately, will be the last scheme we do for a while, because we are struggling with funding opportunities at the moment. So yes, Piccadilly will be done, but again, just to emphasise, and one of the best things about this scheme was that we made sure that wards throughout the town benefited, not just one or two wards. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Right, so move on to executive member for... Sorry?
Observation.
Oh, sorry. Observations here. Councillor McGovern, Councillor Broughton after him.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate the answer that Councillor Arbour gave me back. I mean, I didn't need to run through what the Leisure Trust does. I know what the Leisure Trust does. I know that there's 5,135 members of the Leisure Trust. And the reason why they wanted this new gym equipment at £500,000 was because of a worry that they might lose members with competition in the borough, particularly regarding JD Sports Gym. I think the point I was making, which
Mr Mayor, sorry, Councillor McGinn, can I just... I think it's not often my colleague makes a mistake there, but I think there's a private item later in the agenda which talks about the financial
Yeah, but
implications.
I'd still like to make the observation now, though. Thank you, Councillor.
Well, no, I've no problem with you making the observation, but you're actually quoting prices. That's
I'm
the
not
point
quoting
I'm
any
making.
price. I quote the number of members that they've got. But the thing that I didn't mention. What money did I mention? 500. Oh yeah, I didn't mention money. 500,000. Yeah. I mentioned money in my question though, because that's what the report says. It says that we're putting money. But the thing that I'm getting across is not that I don't want to support the Leisure Trust, neither do I want to see it fail. What I wanted to get an answer of the executive on is, if we had to raise £250,000 by increasing council tax this year, where has this £500,000 just miraculously come from? And doesn't it prove the point that when I said we didn't need to increase council tax, we didn't? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Councillor Broughton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For page 147. I think the work that's taken place in the play area across from the Paddy and Leisure Centre is really good. But could I just ask that in future any work to improve parks is planned just a little better? I've had several people contact me to say that it was done during the school holidays. Sort of started just about when the schools broke up and it finished just when they went back. So obviously we all want to see the parks improved, and it is a positive, but I just wanted to make the observation that shutting that park off all summer has caused a lot of annoyance. Thank you, Mr.
Right. Okay. Councillor Harbour, I've got 3 more observations coming. So want to respond to these 2?
With respect, Mr. Mayor, I'll respond to those 2 if that's
two,
okay, because I want to do people justice. I appreciate what Councillor McGowan said there, and I think it's a financial argument about raising council tax and the way we do it and the way we don't do it. I also think that he touched on issues which should be discussed perhaps later in this meeting. Not that I'm trying to add anything, but I think that's a wise thing to do. As Councillor Broughton said regarding Park Road there, and she welcomed the investment down there, yes, she's quite right there. It frustrated me when we had to delay the work on the site. It was always intended that that work would be finished before school holidays, and we were on target for that, but unfortunately there were issues with the contractors, issues with the weather, wet weather, issues with getting equipment in, and unfortunately we missed that opportunity. There was a question asked, should we delay it and wait until after the holidays? But my worry about that is once you delay a refurbishment scheme, it's the go-ahead, then there's a danger of it falling further back. So I personally, although I am upset that we didn't meet that deadline, I would rather do the work and face criticism of what's happened over this last few weeks, but have that refurbished facility there now for the people of Paddy.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a quick observation to Councillor Harbour. My understanding, I do apologise if I've got this incorrect, but I recollect reading in the Lancashire Telegraph about the renovation works taking place between May, June start time and to be completed in September. I do apologise if, you know, that the newspaper's telling me lies, but I do remember actually reading that article. I just wanted to make that observation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 very quick observations. Firstly, Councillor McGowan mentioned a few minutes ago about the council tax issue again. I'd just like to bring his attention to an article in the Lancashire Telegraph from about 9 days ago, saying the Conservative leader of a Lancashire council has told the government how setting low council taxes over the years now means council coffers are emptying. The Conservative-run council has become a victim of its own prudential success because they have kept council tax low or frozen. That is not a situation I would like to see us in here at Burn Council. So I would hope that the Conservatives keep that factor in mind. And sorry, if you just bear with me a second. Just wanted to mention that in my role as Chair of Scrutiny, I do sit on the Private Sector Landlords Forum, and this is page 145, PL2, the Landlord and Agent Training Days. While we've been in here this evening, there has been landlord training taking place next door in the council chambers. We have a very, very active Good Landlords accreditation scheme. We go out of our way as a council to try and ensure that the quality of our landlords across the borough is the best that it can be. And there's mention here of training on damp and mould. Now, I know we've already been told about several training courses that we should be invited as councillors to go on this evening. You'll be delighted to know that I have requested that that damp and mould training is also extended to us, because I feel it's important that as councillors we understand the health implications when residents are living in that environment.
Thank you. I'll go one more. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just on PE 2.7, I know I'm going to be removing myself later on for this vote, but as my position on Burnley Leisure Trust, I thought I might want to clarify some information. As my understanding of it is, the equipment at the leisure centres is owned by the council anyway. So any refurbishment of that is refurbishing our own equipment. So I wanted to make as part of a partnership that was originally set up with the Leisure Trust. Thank you.
Right, okay. Councillor Harbour, if you respond to these three, I've got two more after, yeah, so.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Lewis's observation and clarifying that matter. Councillor Whittaker, has he gone? Sorry. Well, can his colleagues tell him that? He's no need to apologise as far as what he's read in the paper. As I say, it's my understanding and what's been in my council reports that we've always said that the facelifting scheme in Piccadilly will start in September. If it's been reported in the press differently, I don't think we're accusing anybody of lying or anything like that. Whether it's just a misunderstanding or not, I don't know. But I am pretty confident that I've always said September for that Piccadilly scheme. And again, I'd just like to thank Councillor Barton for her remarks and observations. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr Deputy Mayor, if you...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And page 147, PE2, observation with regards to managing budgets and so on. And congratulations to the executive for managing a well-balanced budget that was able to find good investment for the Burnley Leisure Trust, which benefits all of us in the town. Now, with regards to taxpayers and so on, £13 a week or a year maybe on a Band B property that I live in is not going to hurt me. What has hurt me is the £200 a month that I'm paying extra in my mortgage. I just hope Councillor Graham and Councillor Harbour could run the Treasury better than those Tories. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Husker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My colleague in here tonight, Karen Ingham, sobs. She's not here tonight because she's working. I'm glad to see that finally been, you finally seen sense on these HMOs, Councillor Harbour, and she's actually been listened to when she mentioned it at last council meeting. But it should be covered in all areas. As you know, both in the same area being you, and we've got concerns all over these MHOs. It's causing problems.
Councillor Husker, page number, did you mention? You missed it.
Mr Mayor, yeah. PL4, page 144, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harbour, you want to respond to these two? Sorry? Councillor Harbour, you want to say something? Yeah, okay. Yeah, then, right, Councillor Harbour, yes.
I think Councillor Baker might be right there about HMOs, but I'm always willing to try and answer questions and observations from my colleague in Padiham. So I thought I tried explaining it when the question was asked previously. And I did acknowledge that Councillor McGowan made some valid points in scrutiny. But unfortunately, when we looked at it, we've had to go off the figures. And I'll repeat again, if government wants to relax legislation on how you bring HMOs in, then that's brilliant. And you know, we've also said as an executive that we will monitor what's happening in other areas. And if the figures justify it, we will act on that. I'm just going back to what Councillor Shah Hussain said regarding council tax and finances, etc. I mean, you know, let's just remember, and I just remind colleagues of this, that whatever we're paying council tax, only 15 or 16% of it comes to back to Burnley. The rest of it, the majority of it, goes to his Councillor Oscar's colleagues in Preston. So the real big increases are also made in Preston. And I've got to disagree with my friend Councillor Shah Hussain when he talked about me being in charge of the Treasury. I've got to admit that'll be the last thing you want. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Right. I'm given this statement to read. We are conscious of the time. Yeah. So please bear with it. It's handwritten. I'll try my best to read here. It's under Council Procedure Rule 8.1. Unless the majority of members present vote for the meeting to continue, any meeting that has lasted for 3 hours will adjourn immediately. Remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the chair. If he or she does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next available ordinary meeting. Yeah. If members wish for this meeting to continue beyond 9:30, will somebody move a motion under Council Procedures 13, motions without notice, L, that the meeting continue beyond 3 hours in duration? Thank you. Sorry. Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move the motion to carry on beyond 9:30 if we need to this evening.
Yeah. Will somebody second the motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour? Yeah. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, right, okay. Thank you. The meeting will now continue so that we can complete the business on tonight's agenda. Thank you so much for everything. My next item is Executive Member for Economy and Growth. Councillor Townsend, will you please move your report?
Move my report, Mr. Mayor, and can I just say what an honour and a delight it's been to be the Executive Member for Economy and Growth over these last fortnight. We've had well, Pioneer Place was already opening, but now to see it opened with the real cinema, Nando's, Le Caro, and the queues that were at the place, round Pioneer Place the other day, were a sight to behold. Absolutely marvellous. And in addition, last week, we had the celebration of the 10-year anniversary of Burnley being awarded the most enterprising place in the UK. I had the joy of being at Burnley College, where we celebrated with bondholders, and it was a real delight to look back at what's been achieved, but also to discuss how we've moved the borough forward. So it's been a real joy. I know we've had a tough meeting tonight, and at times it may seem to members of the public like we've been almost like talking the town down. Let me assure everybody, and I hope this report expresses there are some fantastic things going on in this borough. The town is moving forward. Yes, we have problems, but we should look to the future with optimism and excitement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Conliffe and Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I welcome most of the changes and that Councillor Townsend just put forward there and what's in the report. My question on the report, sorry, I should quote a number first, but obviously we're on page 152. I don't have a number in a sense. This is about something that's not in the report, and that's what I want to ask about. Obviously, a lot of my ward in Coventry and Worcester is rural, and the rural economy and the rural landscape, everything else takes up the vast majority of space in the borough. So I think it needs a space to be discussed within a report, but more in a sense, not really in the report, but we need to take it seriously, and we need to be expressing a little bit more interest in rural businesses and rural economy going forward, because whether we like it or not, there are people who are coming to this town as tourists and they want to explore the countryside, they want to get out there. There's a lot of different things that are going on. Some of these enterprises have been going well and some of them are facing difficulties, but we need to address that and add that to report in a hypothetical way so that we can be addressing those and allow those rural businesses and that rural economy to grow as well. So would the Councillor Townsend, would the exec member, sorry, consider addressing that, maybe sitting and meeting with me about that or coming up and seeing us about that, because I think there's some certain things that we need to look at so that we can build that rural economy side. And I don't think that's just about
Councillor Conliffe, what you're talking about, is this in this report or is something out of...
I'll leave the exec member to decide that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Baker.
I'm just determined whether to do a Councillor Conliffe run around the room bit. I'll sit quietly or stand where I am. Just a couple of questions, Mark. Can I congratulate you on your clairvoyance and things like that you're putting things in your report now? And I'll start off with page 152, which is PR2. On September 29th, there was an exclusive Burnley bondholders event. Well, I thought the meeting was only on the 27th, so is that some sort of foresight that you've got that most of us haven't? And the other query about your report is... Oh, I've lost it now, isn't it? No, here we go. It's page 153 and it's PR3. It's Town to Turf, public realm. Works to Harry Potts Way are complete. Now, I presume Harry Potts Way is the bit from the traffic lights down past the football club, so I'll accept that bit. But it's the last bit. The overall programme remains approximately 8 weeks behind schedule, with a projected completion of September 24th. Now, was that September 24th, or is that September 2024 that you're forecasting? Thank you. And can we have it more accurate next time? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Townsend, you want to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to Councillor Cunliffe, can I just say that I treat the rural economy extremely important. It's an extremely important element of the portfolio that I do discuss with officers quite regularly. Obviously, what we've got here are strategic objectives, and we're reporting on strategic objectives. If there's anything about any individual elements and that he wants to discuss, then he can obviously give me a call any time. But ultimately, to try and focus in on those areas where something has changed since last time, or particular efforts and emphasis have gone into a particular area. But if he's got any particular concerns about any individual businesses or any particular sectors in the rural economy, I'm more than happy for him to drop me a line, or we can have a meeting to discuss that. Obviously, it's a hard one to answer about my clairvoyance, so I'll plead guilty to clairvoyancy. But I am I'd be deeply upset if the meeting doesn't now take place on the 29th. In terms of your final point on Town to Turf and the actual date, the date is September 2024 for actual completion. Yeah, it's not a mistake that. It is a long-running programme that's going to take time. You know, there's still a lot of work to do down there. You know, in terms of the subway, the traffic reorganisation, all the way from obviously the roundabout at the Kirby up to the traffic lights where Harry Potts Way commences. So still a huge programme to get through, and it all has to be done now without closing the roads again, because we have been promised that basically we'd keep the closed roads shut for longer so that we could get the work done in all one go. So that's something I'm monitoring very closely, try and ensure that we have no more disruption on the scale that we've had recently. So that's something I'll be keeping a close eye on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any observations? Councillor Deputy Mayor, Mr. Hussain.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. And page 157. Sorry, do apologise. It's not 157. It's 152 PR3 and Pioneer Place Development. I've noticed Councillor Birtwistle has left, and I wanted to apologise to him. One of my first questions as an elected member back in 2007 when I first came to the Chamber was with regards to the Oval development, which I referred to as awful development because it didn't progress as fastly as I thought it would. So I want to take those words back and apologise to Councillor Birtwistle, because I went to the opening and it's such a beautiful development. And it's greatly improved our town centre. It's going to bring a lot of people, town centre tourists or leisure tourists into Burnley. And some of my families have got, members have gone and used some of the facilities there. And there's long queues and so on, so that's good. And so I want to thank not just all individuals and all the parties that were involved from long as I can remember from 2007 for it to happen as it is. And I think that's a wonderful development and we should all be proud of, regardless of our political colours. And what I would do is I would encourage everybody to use the town centre, in particular our shops, and do our shopping in Burnley town centre and not places like Accrington or Nelson or Blackburn, because Fannells is coming to Burnley. Fannells is I'm not sure if any of you know, but is an extremely upmarket shop, and I will be going in there soon this weekend, and I would encourage all of you to do that. Thank you.
Councillor Barton.
Thank you. Page 153, PR3, just regarding the town to turf transformation. Anybody who's had the pleasure of going round Yorkshire Street, former roundabout at the moment, knows that you have to drive extremely carefully. I think we're missing a trick in not putting those big barriers on Colne Road. Maybe that would be the way that we sort out the really speeding and dangerous driving around there.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's PR3 152. It's just to echo what everybody else said, really, about the Pioneer Place development. I think we should all stand here tonight and feel proud of what we've managed to achieve. Whatever party we come from, we've finally got this over the line with funding from LCC, and Anthony Higginbotham, the MP, obviously pestering at Westminster for some as well. It's great that that's opened. There's so much going on there. We've actually got Nando's in Burnley, which I think personally is great. And it's nice to see that the town is on the up, especially with the flannel shop that Councillor has mentioned there. I'm glad that you can afford to shop in an upmarket shop so you can pay your mortgage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, you want to respond, please?
Yeah, just very quickly, I'd like to thank Councillor Hussain, Councillor Barton and Councillor Whitaker for the comments there. I'm not going to comment on which shops they actually go to buy their clothes and things like that, but what I will say is there's an extremely diverse selection of shops in Burnley Town Centre. There's something for everybody, and Councillor Hussain was right. Visit Burnley Town Centre. There's lots to do, there's lots to see, there's lots to buy, and the more that goes through our town centre, the more prosperous we become. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Right, well, move on to item 9, questions.
None have been received, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10, exclusion of the public. Councillor Anwar, will you move a motion to exclude the public from item 11A and 11B as per the agenda? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move.
Councillor Townsend, will you second that?
I so second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Can I thank members of the public for attending this evening in person and those watching the live stream on YouTube. Please can I ask members of the public to leave now, and can I ask for the live stream to be turned off? Thank you. everyone. That concludes the business for tonight's meeting. Thank you and good night. Have a safe journey back home.
Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding. Thank you.
Oh, we forgot to call them back in. Oh, we forgot to call them back in. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Yeah, keep going.